Hello everybody, my name is Joshua and I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Coffee, Cats, and King, where we will discuss books, both new and old. I will share with you pictures of my cats will make you wish they were your cats, and I will drink enough coffee for me and everybody watching. A couple videos ago, one of you, I believe it was Troy, was very kind in saying that when I wear my glasses, I am almost as hip as this cool cat here. So, I don't think so, but I tried. So I'm here today with my July wrap-up. I'm actually going to be filming my August TBR separately this time. The videos just seem to be getting progressively longer and longer as I'm reading more through the month, and this month is no different. I read 16 books and DNF'd one. So I'm not even going to try and put that in a video with the TBR as well. And I'm potentially going to be doing something a little different for my TBR this month, but we'll see how that goes. For now, I just want to get into the books that I read in July. So like I said, 16 books and one, I'm not even considering it a DNF, honestly. I just kind of want to talk to you fine folks about it. So without further ado, let's get into it. The very first book that I read this month was an anthology titled Lost Lord, edited by J.P. Ashman. I give this one 3 stars. It is obviously fantasy driven, and the whole idea, the whole concept is just that. People in these fantasy worlds discovering lost lore, discovering lost knowledge or lost abilities or whatever it may be. And there were some really excellent stories in here. It introduced me to a few new fantasy authors that I had never heard of, and their stuff in this particular collection really excited me. Now that said, this collection has a lot of issues in regards to editing. And I know I sound like a broken record because you guys hear this every month. You hear it on a lot of my book reviews, but I can't help it. I'm a stickler for these things. So again, misspelled words, missing punctuations, commas where there should be no comma, or missing commas where they desperately need a comma, things like that. It's abound through the book, and it does detract away from that. At the end of the day, I give it 3 stars. Alright, first physical book that I read this month was one that I was super excited to get to. That was John Rudy's The Bargain. And man, this book did not disappoint whatsoever. I gotta tell you, it was actually way better than I thought it was going to be. This has got to be one of my favorite books that I've read this year. In case you couldn't tell from the lovely cover and the back, this takes place in World War II, specifically in Romania area. It's about Germany trying to come in and take over during World War II. And as we all know, Romania and its surrounding area kind of already belong to someone who is just as scary, just as terrifying, perhaps more deadly in ways than Hitler himself. That is Mr. Dracula. And Dracula has an issue with this. So, is this a, ridiculous, over-the-top Hitler versus Dracula and some drawn-out bloody battle? No, it's not. This is much more about technical warfare and about psychological warfare between them both. So, I thought I was going to get something schlocky and ridiculous. It was not. This thing blew me away, and I'm actually going to talk about it in depth in another video, so I'm not going to spend any more time on it here, but this was a 5-star read for me. The Bargain, John Rudy. If you can find it, please pick it up for yourself. It is well worth it, whatever price you might have to pay. Okay, following that, I got into a couple that really kind of let me down. The first being Mirrorland by Carol Johnstone. Now, I won this in a Goodreads giveaway. I was very excited for it. Sounded really interesting, and it just really let me down. I think that the author had some great ideas. She had some beautiful prose in there, but she just pulled herself in too many directions and couldn't seem to decide on what she wanted Mirrorland to be. Was it going to be a psychological thriller? Was it going to be magical realism? Was it going to be just an outright fantasy, modern style? It became very muddled and confusing, and even at the end, I was left pretty unsatisfied. So I gave it 3 stars. Would I read something else by her? Maybe, but just to see if her writing style has improved, to see if she has gained a grasp on herself, because really it seemed like it just needed some self-editing at that point. So 3 stars for Mirrorland. Then I got into William Johnstone's Sweet Dreams. Interesting how the 2 Johnstones came back to back, and both ended up being rather disappointing. So I talked about this already in depth in another review. It was a 2-star read for me. It was an absolute schlocky, phoned-in mess. If you want something ridiculous and over the top and B-movie style horror that is just very self-aware of how terrible it is, this might be for you. I read it at a time where I was looking for a good outright horror, and this was not it. So, 2 stars. Maybe I'll try and read it again in the future. I don't know. I jumped into a classic following that. It's H.G. Wells' Invisible Man. And I love this cover. I got this in an eBay lot a while back, I think. But anyway, for those of you that don't know, essentially this man shows up one day at this little inn. He starts renting a room, and he's causing all sorts of trouble, all sorts of mess. He keeps breaking things are blowing up there. And the lady who's renting him the room, she's just very concerned. She doesn't know what the heck is going on. But he keeps paying her, so she's going to take the money, obviously. And he's always wrapped up in bandages and coats and everything else. I don't think it's really giving any spoilers away that he turns out to be an invisible man. This is due to a science experiment gone wrong, and the rest of the book is basically about him trying to reverse what happened, whilst also kind of going on a crime spree. So it was interesting. I enjoyed it for the most part. There's one section in there that gets oddly humorous, and the humor just kind of fell flat for me. But I give it 3.5 stars. It was pretty good. It is not my favorite by H.G. Wells, though. So following Invisible Man, I jumped into a science fiction. This is Fred Saberhagen's Berserker. And this is the start of a series. Now this one in particular is actually set up more like a collection of interlocking stories about the Berserkers. So Berserkers are these massive war machines, okay? These things some of them are planet-sized. And basically they just roam the universe, killing off any civilizations that they come into contact with. And each one of these stories is about a different group of people who are trying to destroy the Berserkers. And usually it comes down to something like, oh, awesome, we only had 1,000 people and 12 ships destroyed by this one Berserker, but we were able to damage it and make it run away, So it kind of gives you a sense of just how powerful these things are. It's an interesting read. Like I said, all the stories interconnect and slowly weave a history. And there are, I want to say 3 or 4 more books in this series. I have them from that massive haul from a while back. I'm probably going to pick the next one up next month. I haven't quite decided yet, but I think 3.5 stars at the end of the day. It wasn't bad. Following that, I jumped into another science fiction. So recently I read Kabu from John Robert Russell, and I really enjoyed it. So I thought, why not go on and read his next one that I have, Ta. And Ta, unfortunately, was not nearly as good. It still had some interesting concepts, but it ended up being a 3-star read for me. It sort of follows in the same universe as Kabu did. So the science is all a little odd. We're on a different planet where these people, they rely on these plants that they get this milky substance from. And with this milky substance, they do everything from make food to make weaponry and metals, make furniture. I mean, pretty much this is a miracle substance. And it's about these different groups of people who are trying to cash in and profit off of this this plant milk. So yeah, it's weird, great concept, but his writing was just all over the place for this one. So he has one other called SAR that I think kind of goes with this, and a very loosely based trilogy, and I kind of want to grab it, one, because I'm sure it has a crazy cover like the other two do, and two, because I'm just curious to see what he does. This next one, I did not actually read this book, and this is the one that I'm not even considering a DNF, because I only read the first 20 pages, and well, so okay, this is Desmond Stewart's The Vampire of Mons. It has a gorgeous cover. I love that cover. I mean, the detail in it is fantastic. The reason that I'm not going to consider this a DNF is because I DNF a book when I think it is a genuinely terrible book. This book, I don't think it's bad. I think it's probably a really good book. And I think in this case it is the same issue that I had with Ramsey Campbell, in that the writing is just not for me. And I knew that as soon as I started reading it. I was hoping that I could push through it. I just can't. So this, I think, is actually going to be a genuinely really good book. And so if there is someone out there that is a Ramsey Campbell fan that is interested in this vampire fiction, then please let me know, and I will send it to you, because I want someone to enjoy this book for me. So that was kind of a big disappointment for me, because I was really looking forward to that one. But so instead, I jumped into another book that I got a while back. That is Mystery of Mordak Castle by William McKellar, and it has this gorgeous cover, very gothic. So I was excited to get into this. This turned out to be sort of a Hardy Boys meets Scooby-Doo style mystery that takes place in Scotland. This centers around a boy who is preparing for a big race in the Highland Games, and one day he is running near Mordak Castle. And Mordak Castle is known around there for being haunted. So he sees a ghostly figure there, kind of freaks him out. And then at the same time, this family that used to live there, that kind of has a dark history with his family, moves back into town. There's this scheme going on where things being stolen and shipped overseas, so they think that it is that family doing it, and then on top of that, you have this mystery about the ghost. So there's a lot going on, but it's a very quick read, enjoyable. It's of course meant for a younger audience, but I think it works for an adult as well. And so this one I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one, and I love that cover. Okay, this was a great one. You've heard me talk about this already as well. This is Best Friends by Ruby Jean Jensen. My very first Ruby Jean Jensen book. This went hand in hand with Sweet Dreams. That was a 5-star read for me. If you want to know why, go check out that video I did, that review I did of that and Sweet Dreams. Awesome book. Read more Ruby Jean Jensen, guys. Okay, this next one was a surprise to me, because I went into it unfamiliar with the author and unfamiliar with what the story was really going to be about and what I was getting myself into. That is Sarah Clancy's Black Bayou. And this makes me so excited because this is actually part of a trilogy, and I got the whole trilogy on eBay for like $4 a while back. I just haven't picked them up. But I decided, what the heck, I'm going to give it a read. Didn't know what to expect. It starts out in the very first 5 pages with a girl waking up in the middle of the night. Her mother kisses her on the forehead, says, "We love you so much, honey." And her father is crying, and then he pushes her into the bathtub, and they try and drown her. She escapes from that. Her father grabs her again and cuts her throat just as the police are bursting in and fill both parents with about 10 tons of lead. So, that obviously, I read those first, that first chapter. I'm just like, whoa, hold on, slow down. I did not realize that's what I was getting with this slim little novel. So, this actually ends up being very much involved in voodoo, in ghosts, and the supernatural, and it did not disappoint. I will say that in a few areas, Sarah Clancy's writing is not the best. She has a tendency to reuse verbs and adjectives a little too often for my taste, but I think this is an early work for her, and I am definitely looking forward to reading the other two in this series. This was a big surprise. If you're at all interested in New Orleans, if you're interested in voodoo, in hoodoo, in supernatural, in ghosts, and specters, and hauntings, this is a really great read. Very compelling, very short. You will enjoy it very much. I gave this 4 stars. Okay, next up was that very special 100th book of the year for me. That was Psycho by Robert Bloch. Now, I have a video out on this with a review as well. If you have not watched it, shame on you. Go watch that. Come back, finish this video. Did you do it? Okay, good. Awesome. 5 stars. Great. Read it if you haven't read it. Better than the Hitchcock movie. Okay, after that, I finished another Kindle book. This is In the Hills Above the Grist Mill by Calvin Ellis. And I actually found this book because Megan over at Megan's Reading Revolutions read it, and it sounded very intriguing. It is about this YouTuber who goes around investigating paranormal instances, and in this case, this preacher from a small town contacts her and says, "Hey, there is a Bigfoot killing people around our town. Would you like to come and investigate with me?" So I don't know how she could possibly say no to that. She doesn't, and the craziness just stays ramped up. Now, the writing is a little new age for me at times. You know, they use terminology that I personally wouldn't use, but I know it's what the hip kids use, and so that threw me off just a little bit, and sometimes it didn't work well with that particular character. It just didn't make sense for that character to say something like that and to use that type of slang. But that said, the book itself, aside from some slightly wonky romantic scenes that I feel were just kind of unnecessary and cheesy, the book itself is really great. The mystery stays a mystery for almost the entire book. It really keeps you reading because there are 1,000 different scenarios, 1,000 different ways that this could potentially go, and you think you know the way it's going to go, but sometimes you're correct, sometimes you're not. I would suggest this book highly. I think you should definitely pick it up. It is a very interesting read, very different, and I actually give it 4.5 stars at the end of the day. It was almost there for me. Sadly, the next 2 were not. My final Kindle read of the month was another anthology. This is A Calls from the Woods. This one got 2.5 stars for me. There were a few good stories, but the majority of them I felt were very lacking. I thought they needed a lot of editing, and they came off very amateurish. Get this if you just want a quick read and if you are okay with skipping some entire stories to find the couple good ones that were in here. Personally, I got it for free, so it didn't bother me as much, but 2.5 stars, it's all right. And then this guy. I talked about this in my last video as well, and I did leave a review on Goodreads. This is the absolute worst Goosebumps book I've ever read. I'm not going to talk about it. It's a piece of crap, and I'm kind of mad because it's a really rare one. But guys, just because a book is hard to get does not mean it is good. this is a great example. 1 star. And the final book that I actually read for the month was another science fiction. This is Frederick Pohl and C.M. Kornbluth with The Space Merchants. So The Space Merchants is very much a satirical kind of science fiction. Now, what's interesting about this is that this book came out in 1953. So it is almost 70 years old, and it is still so freaking relevant. It is essentially about consumerism and how people can be sold on anything, no matter how terrible it is for them, if you market it to them in the correct manner. And so it's a really great read. I very much enjoyed it. I don't want to get too into it because it is somewhat technical. But if you are a fan of science fiction and you have not read Space Merchants, talking to you, Michael K. Vaughn, give this one a read. I give it 4 stars. Really good stuff. And there you go. That's my 16 books that I finished this month. I know it's a lot, guys. That's why I'm leaving my TBR for a different video. But, and in fact, I apologize. I'm going to skip the cat footage on this one. I promise I will make it up to you. But I think this one's going to be pretty long as it is. It was a good month for me. You know, there were a lot of middling reads in there, but quite a few really high reads as well. So it was a good month. I got through way more than I thought I was going to. It was awesome, and I'm very much looking forward to August. So thank you guys, as always, for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed my last few videos. I hope you will enjoy my next video. Now, I did say that my next video was going to be another reading of one of my stories. That's mostly because I kind of forgot that I had to do this wrap-up and my TBR first. So I'm going to get those out of the way and then do another story reading. You're probably going to see more videos from me coming up in the next few days because my wife is gone for business for a week. And without her, it's either film and write or sit on the couch and cry. So, yeah. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. Cheers.